In a world that often feels chaotic, staying calm and positive can seem like an impossible task. Life is full of challenges, obstacles, and moments of doubt, but the secret to navigating these trials lies not in avoiding them, but in how we approach them. The path to inner peace, happiness, and fulfillment begins with the mindset we cultivate each day. In this journey of stories, we'll explore powerful lessons on how to embrace positivity, practice gratitude, care for our well-being, and dare to step into the unknown. Through the lives of ordinary people who found extraordinary strength within themselves, we'll uncover timeless wisdom that helps us face life's challenges with grace, courage, and optimism. As we embark on this adventure together, remember that each story is a step toward becoming the calm, positive force in your own life. So, take a deep breath, open your heart, and let's begin. 1. The power of positive thinking. In a quiet town surrounded by green hills and golden wheat fields, there lived a humble man named Raghav. He wasn't a scholar, nor was he a wealthy merchant. He ran a small grocery store at the heart of the village, where people gathered to buy essentials, share stories, and sometimes simply to bask in his warm presence. Raghav had a reputation. He was known for his unshakable optimism. Whether it was a poor harvest, a sick animal, or an unexpected storm, he always had the same words: every problem carries a hidden opportunity. Some admired him for it. Others thought he was naive. But Raghav never let negativity take root in his mind. Then, one fateful year, disaster struck. Heavy monsoon rains pounded the village for days, and the river that once flowed gently beside the town turned into a raging monster. The water rose swiftly, sweeping away everything in its path: crops, cattle, homes, and dreams. The morning after the flood, the village was unrecognizable. Streets had turned into muddy rivers, houses had collapsed, and livelihoods had been destroyed. Raghav's shop, the place where he had spent years building his business, was now nothing but debris. Shelves were overturned, supplies were floating in the water, and everything he had worked for was gone. Many villagers sat in despair, staring at the ruins of their lives. Some wept, others cursed their fate. But not Raghav. While others mourned, he rolled up his sleeves and began working. He walked through the wreckage, salvaging whatever he could: some soaked rice, a few tins of biscuits, a half-ruined kettle. With these, he set up a small stall under the only tree that had survived the storm. As exhausted villagers passed by, he called out, "Come, have some tea! We still have each other, and that's enough to start again." People thought he had lost his mind. "Raghav, your shop is gone. Your money is gone. How can you be so calm?" one man asked. Raghav simply smiled and said, "If I cry over what's lost, will it come back? No. But if I make the best of what I have, I can rebuild. A flood can take away my shop, but it can't take away my will to rise again." At first, people were skeptical. But as they saw Raghav's unwavering spirit, something remarkable happened. The carpenter, inspired by Raghav, picked up his tools and started fixing doors. The tailor found scraps of fabric and started sewing clothes for those who had lost everything. The farmers, instead of lamenting their ruined fields, started working together to replant. Within weeks, the village was alive again. Not because the flood had spared them, but because their mindset had changed. Months later, when businesses had been rebuilt, someone asked Raghav how he managed to stay so positive. He simply laughed and said, "A storm can take away what you own, but it can never take away what you believe. If you believe you can rebuild, you will. If you believe you're defeated, you are." Lesson: life will always throw unexpected challenges at us, but in every crisis, there is an opportunity to grow stronger. A positive mind doesn't ignore problems, it finds solutions. No matter what happens, always remember your mindset shapes your reality. 2. Embracing gratitude in everyday life. Mira was a woman who had everything: an impressive career, a beautiful home, and a lifestyle most people envied. But deep inside, she felt empty. She was always chasing the next big achievement, the next raise, the next milestone. She believed happiness was just around the corner, after the next promotion, after the next success. But no matter how much she achieved, the feeling of fulfillment never lasted. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day, she decided to walk home instead of taking a taxi. As she strolled through the marketplace, lost in thought, she came across a small flower stall. An old man sat there, arranging delicate roses and marigolds into bouquets. His face was wrinkled yet peaceful, his hands moving with care as if he could see the flowers. But then Mira noticed something. The man was blind. She watched in amazement as he handled each flower with love, as if he could feel its beauty instead of seeing it. Finally, curiosity got the better of her. She walked up to him and asked, "Sir, how do you stay so happy when you can't even see the beauty of the flowers you sell?" The old man chuckled, his smile warm and knowing. "Ah, my dear, who said I need eyes to see beauty?" Mira was taken aback. He continued, "I may not see the colors, but I can smell their fragrance. I can feel their soft petals, and most importantly, I can hear the happiness in people's voices when they pick a bouquet for someone they love. I don't need eyes to experience joy. I have a heart full of gratitude." Mira stood frozen. Here was a man who had so little, yet he had mastered the art of appreciation. Meanwhile, she had everything, but her heart was constantly restless. That night, she sat by her window, watching the city lights flicker in the distance, and for the first time in years, she didn't think about her next goal. Instead, she thought about what she already had. She made a decision. The next morning, she started a new habit, a gratitude journal. Every day she would write down 3 things she was grateful for. At first it felt small: the warmth of my coffee, the sound of birds outside, a kind text from a friend. But something miraculous happened. As days turned into weeks, her perspective shifted. She started noticing things she had taken for granted, the way her mother's voice softened when she said good morning, the comforting embrace of an old sweater, the simple pleasure of breathing in fresh air. She realized that happiness was never about having more. It was about appreciating what you already have. Years later, when she told her children about the blind flower seller, she always repeated the lesson he taught her. If you cannot find joy in what you have, you will never find it in what you seek. Lesson: gratitude isn't about ignoring life's problems. It's about choosing to focus on the blessings that already exist. The more you appreciate, the richer your life becomes. 3. The importance of self-compassion. Ayan was the kind of man who always put others before himself. At work, he took on extra projects to help his colleagues. At home, he never said no to his family's requests, even when he was exhausted. He was the one people relied on, the problem solver, the dependable one. But deep inside, Ayan carried a burden no one could see. He had an inner voice that never let him rest. Whenever he made a mistake, even a small one, his mind would attack him. "You're not good enough. You should have done better. Why can't you get things right?" One evening, after a long and stressful day at work, Ayan visited his old school teacher, Mr. Sharma. The wise old man listened patiently as Ayan poured out his struggles, his self-doubt, his exhaustion, his inability to forgive himself for even the smallest errors. Mr. Sharma smiled gently and handed Ayan a backpack filled with heavy bricks. "Carry this on your shoulders and take a walk around the house," he instructed. Ayan obeyed. Within minutes, his back ached. His legs felt weak. The weight was unbearable. When he returned, breathless and tired, Mr. Sharma asked, "How do you feel?" "Exhausted." Ayan gasped. The old man nodded. "This is what you do to yourself every day, Ayan. Each time you criticize yourself, you add another brick to your load. But tell me, if a friend made a mistake, would you punish them the way you punish yourself?" Ayan hesitated, then shook his head. "Of course not. I would encourage them, help them, tell them it's okay to make mistakes." Mr. Sharma smiled. "Then why don't you do the same for yourself?" He took the backpack from Ayan's shoulders and placed it on the ground. Self-compassion means putting the backpack down. It means speaking to yourself as you would speak to a dear friend. Try it. Holistic health, caring for mind and body. In the heart of the Himalayas, nestled between towering mountains and serene rivers, there was a monastery known for its wisdom. People from all walks of life traveled for days just to seek the guidance of the head monk, Master Tenzin. a man known for his profound understanding of life. One day, a young businessman named Arjun arrived at the monastery. His face was pale, his shoulders tense, and his eyes restless. "Master," he said breathlessly, "I am constantly exhausted. My body aches, my mind never stops racing, and I feel like I am losing control of my life. No matter how hard I work, I am never at peace. Please tell me what to do." Master Tenzin nodded and gestured for Arjun to follow him to a small meditation hall. In the center of the room, there was an old wooden table. On the table sat a delicate porcelain cup filled with water. Without warning, the monk picked up a small hammer and struck the cup. The porcelain shattered into dozens of pieces, and the water spilled across the table. Arjun gasped. "Master, why did you break it?" Master Tenzin smiled. "This cup is like your body and mind. If you keep pushing it beyond its limits without care, one day it will break. And once it's broken, no amount of effort can undo the damage." Arjun frowned. "But I have responsibilities. I don't have time to slow down." The monk picked up a second cup and filled it with fresh water. This time he placed it on a soft cloth and gently wiped the rim. "Your body and mind are your greatest tools, Arjun. You expect them to function every day, yet you do not take care of them. Tell me, do you sleep well? Do you eat healthy? Do you give your mind rest? Do you breathe deeply?" Arjun lowered his head. "No," he admitted. The monk sat beside him. "Holistic health is balance, my son. A strong mind needs a healthy body, and a healthy body needs a peaceful mind. You sharpen a sword before battle. Why do you not sharpen yourself for life?" That night, Arjun sat under the stars, thinking deeply. He had always thought success meant pushing harder, working longer, and never stopping. But now he realized, without health, success meant nothing. When he returned home, he made a promise to himself. He would wake up early and breathe deeply before starting his day. He would nourish his body with healthy food instead of surviving on stress and caffeine. He would move his body, even if just for a walk, because energy flowed where movement existed. And most importantly, he would give his mind the rest it deserved. Months later, people noticed something different about Arjun. He was still hardworking, still ambitious, but now he was calm, focused, and full of energy. Whenever someone asked what had changed, he would simply smile and say, "I learned to take care of the cup before it broke." Lesson: your mind and body are the foundation of everything you do. Take care of them before they force you to stop. Rest is not a luxury, it is a necessity. 5. The adventure of trying new things. In a quiet village surrounded by green hills, there was an old potter named Dhruv. For 40 years he had sat in his workshop, shaping clay into beautiful pots with his hands. His work was precise, his designs flawless, but there was one problem: he never made anything new. Every day he crafted the same pots, the same shapes, the same patterns. The villagers admired his skill, but over time his business began to slow. The younger generation preferred colourful modern designs, yet Dhruv refused to change. One evening, a young traveller named Kabir visited his shop. He admired the craftsmanship, but noticed that every pot looked identical. "Master Dhruv," Kabir said, "your skill is remarkable, but have you ever tried making something different? A new shape? A different design?" The old potter shook his head. "Why should I? I've been making these for 40 years. Change is risky." Kabir smiled and picked up a lump of clay. He began molding it into a unique design, a shape unlike anything Dhruv had ever seen. It was imperfect, a little rough, but it was new. "You see, Master," Kabir said, "life is like clay. If you never experiment, you will never know what you are capable of creating." Dhruv watched in silence. That night, as he sat alone in his workshop, he stared at his clay and hesitated. Could he really try something new after all these years? Taking a deep breath, he placed his hands on the wheel and began shaping the clay, not into his usual design, but into something different. His fingers trembled, and mistakes were made, but he kept going. Days turned into weeks, and soon Dhruv's shop was filled with new designs, bold patterns, unique shapes, and colors he had never dared to use before. The villagers, curious about the change, came in crowds. Young and old alike admired his work, and soon his shop was thriving again. One day, Kabir returned. He looked around at the transformed workshop and smiled. Dhruv laughed. I was afraid of change, but now I realize the real danger was staying the same. Lesson: fear of failure keeps us stuck, but trying new things, stepping into the unknown, that is where growth happens. Life is an adventure, and only those who dare to explore will discover their true potential. 6. Setting achievable goals. Ravi had always dreamed of climbing the greatest peak in his land, Mount Varuna. Every morning, he would stare at its snow-covered summit from his small village, imagining the view from the top. But year after year, he hesitated. I am not strong enough, he would say. The climb is too hard. What if I fail? One day, an old mountaineer named Kiran visited the village. When Ravi shared his dream and his fears, Kiran chuckled. Tell me, Ravi, he said, if I asked you to reach the top of the mountain in a single day, could you do it? Ravi shook his head. That's impossible, Kiran nodded. Exactly. You can't climb a mountain in one step, but you can take one step at a time. He handed Ravi a small notebook and said, write down one small thing you can do each day, not the whole journey, just the next step. Skeptical but willing, Ravi began. Day 1, walked 2 kilometers outside the village. Day 7, bought proper climbing boots. Day 14, hiked the nearby hill. Day 30, practiced breathing at high altitudes. Weeks turned into months, and before he realized it, Ravi was stronger, faster, and more prepared than ever before. 1 year later, on a crisp morning, Ravi stood at the foot of Mount Varuna. This time, he wasn't afraid. He wasn't overwhelmed. He knew he was ready. After days of climbing, battling exhaustion and cold winds, he finally reached the summit. As he stood at the top, staring at the endless horizon, he whispered to himself, one step at a time. Kiran's words echoed in his heart. No dream is too big if you break it into small steps. Lesson: many people give up on their dreams because they seem too big. The secret? Break them down. Small steps taken consistently will take you further than a giant leap ever could. 7. Finding joy in what you do. In a bustling city, there was a man named Kunal who worked as a baker. Every morning at 4 a.m. he would wake up, knead the dough and bake loaves of bread, pastries and cakes for the townspeople. But Kunal wasn't happy. To him, his work felt repetitive, meaningless. I am just a baker, he would sigh. What difference do I make? One morning, as he prepared to open his shop, a little girl named Meera came in, her eyes shining with excitement. Uncle Kunal, she beamed. Today is my birthday, and my mother bought a cake from you. It's my first ever birthday cake. Kunal smiled politely, but inside he felt indifferent. It's just a cake, he thought. That evening, as he closed his shop, he passed by a small house and heard laughter inside. Curious, he peeked through the window. Inside, Meera sat at a table, her eyes wide with wonder as her mother placed the cake before her. The candles flickered, the family sang, and Meera clapped her hands in pure joy before blowing out the candles. Kunal stood frozen. The cake he had baked, the one he thought was just another order, had become the center of a precious memory. That night, he couldn't sleep. Had he been looking at his work the wrong way all along? The next morning, when Kunal entered his bakery, something had changed. He no longer saw dough and flour. He saw possibilities. The bread he baked wasn't just food. It was the warm breakfast that fueled workers and school children. The pastries weren't just treats. They were the small joys in someone's difficult day. And the cakes weren't just desserts. They were the heart of celebrations, the sweetness in people's memories. For the first time, he found joy in what he did. Years later, when people asked Kunal how he became the most beloved baker in the city, he simply smiled and said, I stopped working just to make a living. I started working to make a difference. Lesson: happiness isn't about what you do. It's about how you see what you do. Every job, every task, no matter how small, has meaning when done with heart and purpose. Staying calm and positive in life can feel challenging, but the key lies in shifting our perspective and developing habits that nourish our mind, body, and spirit. The 7 stories we explored offer timeless lessons on how to cultivate a peaceful, joyful, and fulfilling life. The power of positive thinking teaches us that our mindset shapes our reality. Just as the seeds of hope planted in Tara's garden transformed into a vibrant landscape, our thoughts, when nurtured positively, have the power to create a life of abundance and possibility. The power of optimism allows us to rise above challenges and see opportunities where others might see obstacles. Embracing gratitude in everyday life highlights the importance of appreciating the small moments. Just as Lila learned to find beauty in the everyday, from the simple act of cleaning to the quiet moments of reflection, gratitude has the transformative ability to shift our focus away from what we lack to what we already have. This shift brings peace, contentment, and a deeper connection to the present moment. The importance of self-compassion emphasizes the need to be kind to ourselves. Ayan's journey from self-criticism to self-acceptance teaches us that we are our own greatest allies. Just as we show kindness to others, we must extend the same grace to ourselves, learning to forgive our mistakes and embrace our imperfections. Self-compassion becomes the foundation of our resilience and growth. Holistic health, caring for mind and body, reminds us that true well-being comes from a balance of mind, body, and spirit. Dhruv, the potter, discovered that neglecting one part of himself led to imbalance, but by embracing self-care and nurturing all aspects of his health, he could thrive. Taking time to nourish both our physical health and our mental peace ensures that we are prepared to face life's challenges with vitality and clarity. The adventure of trying new things encourages us to step outside our comfort zones. Dhruv's reluctance to experiment with new designs mirrored how many of us fear change. But as we learned, trying new things opens the door to new experiences, creativity, and growth. Embracing change with curiosity and courage leads us to discover hidden talents and untapped potential, making life a grand adventure. Setting achievable goals teaches us the power of incremental progress. Ravi's journey to summit Mount Varuna illustrates how breaking down a large goal into manageable steps makes even the biggest dreams attainable. By setting small, actionable goals and taking one step at a time, we build momentum and ultimately achieve our desired outcomes without feeling overwhelmed. Finding joy in what you do reminds us that happiness lies in the meaning we attach to our actions. Kunal, the baker, learned that every loaf of bread and cake he baked carried the potential to bring joy, warmth, and connection to others. When we approach our work with a sense of purpose and mindfulness, we can transform even the most ordinary tasks into meaningful and fulfilling experiences. Together, these stories offer a powerful blueprint for staying calm and positive in life. By cultivating a positive mindset, embracing gratitude, practicing self-compassion, nurturing our health, stepping into the unknown, setting realistic goals, and finding joy in our work, we can live a life of balance, peace, and happiness.